Now, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the first RPIrates, the RPI Users Group of the spring 2025 term. And this is the special RPIrates Computing of History RPIrates brought to you by the Rensselaer Future of Computing Institute and RPIrates, of course. Thank you for being here. We are going to focus on the Thacher Computing Instrument, the supercomputer of the 19th century, invented by RPI graduate Edwin Thacher. He was an 1863 Civil War era graduate of RPI, patented this device in 1881. And tonight we're going to, we have the Thacher device in person, so we'll have the opportunity to demonstrate it, and you can actually touch it if you would like. This is my personal device, which I've owned for about a year. RPI archives have two of these in their archives, in addition to Edwin Thacher's papers. What I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to talk a bit of history of Edwin Thacher. I'm going to give some background into how slide rules operate. You are all too young to actually have used slide rules for real use. I'm barely old enough to actually use slide rules. I have several normal slide rules here that I'm going to pass around when I talk about that aspect. I also have some other computing devices here. I have the first calculator I had when I graduated from RPI and used throughout my graduate school, my engineering work and my graduate school got me through a master's degree and a PhD.
That was like 5 minutes ago, but okay. I would make sure the audio worked. It's good.
Then we'll, I've got some slides to kind of illustrate how the Thacher device actually works. And then we can stumble through a demo on the device. So let's get on with so Edwin Thacher. This is probably towards the end of his career. This is his patent document in 1881. It's really interesting to look at his patent documentation because the manual, there's kind of a quick start guide. If you look along the base of this device, there's a quick start guide, which is a kind of a reminder of how to use it for users. It's built into the base of the device. There is a version of the manual which goes into depth into the theory of operation, including probably 2/3 of the manual are actually applications, specific applications for different kinds of calculations, bridge calculations, this sort of thing, after he just describes the basic operation. And there's but his patent disclosure for this device is very similar to the user's manual. So he's kind of the Venn diagram of all his documentation for this is closely overlapping. So the RPI archives, which is linked to in this from this slide, gives a little bit of his history. This is a summary of it. Really, he was a bridge engineer. He was a renowned bridge engineer. You know, after he grew up in St. Lawrence County, if you look at this time frame, this is really interesting, and I wondered upon reading his biography if this was common. You know, he entered RPI fairly old for what we would consider. You know, usually people enter, you know, sometimes it's early, you know, like typically 17 or 18, sometimes 19. But he was 31 when he started at RPI. It was through it in 3 years, and then he was off to he did some Civil War work, but very quickly he went into at the end of the war, he went into real engineering. And it's kind of interesting, his titles, I don't have them really indicated in here, but his title was like calculating engineer at several different places. And one of the things he did, which is analogous to what Babbage was renowned for, was calculating tables. So in addition to his work designing truss bridges and concrete arch bridges, which is what he got his patents for, his renowned patents, he would publish tables that civil engineers would use, which is good, which is pretty common. And that's, what led Babbage to create the difference engine and then the analytic engine was improving the quality of tables. So this is what the essence of his work was. And in the midst of all of this, a little ways into his career, he created this cylindrical slide rule, or the calculating instrument, as he called it. And he did this when he was trying to put together some tables, some engineering tables. This is kind of a summary of the documentation that's in the RPI archives. Most of it has to do with his bridge construction work, which is what he's really known for. These are some examples of bridges that either he designed directly or were using his design concepts. It's interesting that a portion of the RPI archives are legal filings. His infringement lawsuits against companies in the United States and in Puerto Rico on companies that were building bridges according to his patented designs. So I thought that was kind of fascinating. This guy was totally about intellectual property protection. I apologize that this is happening. This is what we were afraid of for the mini conference fall. So there's legal materials. There's he wrote papers, published papers in the various Society of Civil Engineers things, and of course there is a limited amount of information about the calculating instrument. There's basically there is his manual, which is available online, and two copies of these. And I don't know, I haven't seen them, so I don't know how the quality compares. And I don't know what version of the instrument there is. This is serial number 4018. It does not have, there's like a magnifying glass cursor that was available as I don't know if it was an add-in or an option. This one doesn't have that one. It's not missing from this one. This one just didn't have it, this version of it. So how do slide rules work? Okay, so if I wanted the slide rules are about having two scales that are measured off in using some format. If we have a linear scale and we want to add numbers together, you imagine we have two rulers and we take a length, in this case it's 2, and another length, in this case is 4. We slide them together, we say 2 plus 4, and then we read off, it's 6. Okay? And I know when I was a kid, at some point we probably in like 5th grade math or something like that, we played with adding using just rulers like this. But using identity of logarithms, multiplying and taking the log of multiplication is the same as adding the logarithms together. And similarly, dividing two numbers is the same as subtracting their logs. So if we create a scale that is logarithmic instead of linear, now we've got, now this first length is log 2. This second length is a log 3, and their sum is log 6. And we take that, the anti-log, and we get our number here. So this is what slide rules are all about. And it's an observation that was made in the 1600s. It dates to the 1600s by Napier. And the original slide rule was an instrument called Napier's Bones, and it was pretty much what you're looking at here, this type of thing, this observation. And logs were kind of created to do this sort of thing, to map these into this. So we can see that if we, so this is showing how division works, and you can see very quickly that the way you would do division is just like backwards. It looks exactly the same as multiplication, depending upon how you're reading it. You know, am I doing 2.75 times 2 is equal to 5.5? Or am I doing 5.5 divided by 2 is 2.75? It's, you know, that's how you do it. The other thing that you just saw me do is I have to, when you're using slide rules, you have to have an awareness of the powers of 10. So this could be 5.5, this could be 55, this could be 550. And it could be 2, it could be 20. And so when we're using slide rules, we have to kind of keep the powers of 10. We have to juggle those in our heads. There's no other way to do that. And sometimes the scale is such, if we have the low, God, this is frustrating. I'm going to scream at IT about this. It was for me. Yeah, and and it led to the replacement of the router and stuff. So how do we make things more precise? There's a couple different ways that you can make. So we notice on this one, which is kind of an enlarged version of what I was using in the last page. You see there's one scale, and then inside of this, there's, you know, you've got your log here, but essentially there's like 1 power of 10 across this entire scale. But here we've got multiple scales, which allows us to do so like we could do 2 times, this is up to 10, and now this is 20. So what's this going to be? This is going to be, it's not 4, it's 40, right? So 2 times 20 is 40. 2 times 30 is 60. So, and we can have, so when we design a slide rule, we can do a couple things. One is we can have, you know, a finer grain of divisions, and another is we can have multiple decimals on it to get larger and larger numbers. Okay, and just keep repeating that. And that actually is the principle of the Thacher device, is over a real distance of approximately 59 feet. Okay, we are stretching that out, and we have multiple decades. So if you look at the scale here, you can see, you know, just at a glance, we've got gradations that are like 600, 700. Okay, so it's finely grained, but it's going out. Okay, so I showed this. This is actually in the Air and Space Museum, but this is the same as the slide rule I bought for myself when I was in 7th grade in like 74 or 75, 1974, 75. So let's say 50 years ago. This is significant because this is a 5-inch slide rule. This is what they carried with them on Apollo missions. Okay, this particular one was on the Apollo 13 mission, but Aldrin, the second guy on the moon, Buzz Aldrin, yeah, Buzz Aldrin, what Rainford just picked me out the pasture, man. He had this same model. It's a 5-inch picket. I bought that with my lawn mowing money in 7th grade. But John moved on. January of my 7th grade year, I bought my first handheld calculator. This is the amazing Casio FX11, which it actually does have like a neon display. And when the battery would fade out, you can actually see it here. I can tell the battery's dying on this one. But you see how that 3 is faded? The numbers on the edge would fade out. But what was interesting about this, and it's kind of a carryover from this whole idea of slide rules being, multiplication is adding logarithms. The FX11, notice it's got trigonometric functions on it, and it's got powers. It doesn't have an nth root. I can do a square root, but I can't do the nth root of something. And it doesn't have arc functions. It doesn't have inverse trigonometric functions. So to do an nth root, and I don't know why the hell I was doing nth roots in 7th grade, but to nth root, what you would do is, say I want to do the nth root of the 4th root of 16. I would do 16 natural log, divide by 4, and then e to that. Take the e of that, the exponent, and and that would give me that. And for some reason, the FX10 had those functions, and I don't know why. I couldn't afford the FX10, so I got the FX11. I couldn't afford inverse functions, and I didn't need them anyways. Okay. So we're waiting for this to come through, waiting for this to update. Come on. Hello. This is embarrassing. This is just embarrassing. There we go. So the Thacher's calculating instrument, and this is what I was referring to. Some models of the instrument had this cursor it had a cursor and had a magnifier, so you could actually see a little bit closely your calculation. But I wanted you, so this is his directions for using, Python and Esser were licensed to manufacture. See, this one, this is dated 1917. The devices were manufactured from essentially the 1880s after he patented them they were available in the 1950s. And you can understand why, because this is among the most precise slide rules that you could obtain. I should have just done it from this. Through that time, you didn't have, it was not until the early 60s that you could get a desktop electronic calculator that would a desktop electronic calculator. And what I want you, so in 1917, this was being sold for $40, which was, when I calculated this in sometime in 2024, is almost $1,000. Okay, which at that time could buy a 13.3-inch MacBook with a Retina display. And the funny thing about this is, if you, at the same time that I did this, if you look on eBay to buy one of these, they go for $1,000. so I guess they've retained their value. I don't know. So this is pretty interesting, and they're not that, they're not particularly rare. You can, if you Google on these things, you find that many museums have these. Like I said before, the RPI archives have these. You can find them there. Some of them are in really ratty condition. When I look at this is probably, there are some that are better. If that first photo that I showed, you can see that example, which is from somebody's museum, there's a lot of corrosion. Mine doesn't have corrosion. So I was very lucky to get this. And again, I have no idea why the person had this in their estate when I got it. Okay, so this is kind of confusing. How his instructions for use. It's not as straightforward as one might think. He kind of views it as you're using this to solve an equation, and there's an A and a B, an A1 and a B1, and his instructions are you move the opposite B on the B set, opposite B on B, set A on A. So you first are finding a number. I should make it clear. There's an A scale or a set of A scales on the cylinder, on the inner cylinder. Think of that as being equivalent to one of the sliding scales that I showed you, or on this. If you were, I meant to pass this around. Why don't I get these started? If you look on it, you want to flip it to the side that's got, it doesn't really matter. You could be looking at the C and the D scale either. The C and the D scale is more, might be easier to see. Some of them don't have A's, but you'll look at that. Look at that. Make sure you're looking at the C and the D, and you'll want to. This one has an A and a B, a C and a D. But to do that, sort of that multiplication on one of these, like I've got 4 times 5 is 20 here on the A, using the A and the B. Well, on this, that one of those scales, the A, is on the inner cylinder, and you view the value in the gap between these two ridges, and then and then there's the B scale is on the inside of that. So, and to view it here, here I'm trying. This is you can see here the A. This is I find an A value, and we're looking for that black marker. That helps us line up that first number. And then we're going to search for the second number anywhere on any B. And this is really cool. If you imagine you're doing a table, imagine you're doing a simple math problem. It's like 4 times a whole set of values, or like, how about pi times a whole bunch of values? Like you're writing a table, or you can literally set up the problem here and then just rotate this around and just pick off the B that you want to multiply pi times and read it right off. Okay, so whoops, there it goes again. I'd have somebody just sit here and just click this the whole night. Okay, so I kind of have diagrammed how to do this. You rotate the frame until you see the B, and the B that you want to have. The B is on the inner side. There's a B and a C. The C is used for different calculation, but this is the B scale close to the A, and then we're going to turn our inner slide, which is choosing our A value. Turn our A value until we see the value in the A that we want. And then we slide it so that our A value and our B value line up. And then we spin it around until we find the B that we're multiplying it by. And this is kind of a condensed version of that. If we look at how do we do 5 times 106, using his nomenclature, you're kind of solving this equation. But we have let's see here. You've got you move this you find this B with the black mark, and you position your 5, or remember I said it could be 5, it could be 550, it could be 500, depending upon what you want to have. You position that, and then you're going to look for the number you're going to multiply by on another B scale, which is 106. It could be just rotating it around. Here, it's close by, and you see that the result is 530 or 5,300 or whatever. It depends on what you're doing. So you have to kind of decipher his 1880s sort of way of saying it. But you also have to keep track again of the decimal places in your mind. Okay, so here we can see it on mine. I slid the B marker, and you notice it's convenient. You can keep track of it because they have those. Depending upon whether you're doing multiplication or division, they've got these one marked with the big black thing, so you can kind of easily spot it. So our first number is 5. We find that, and then we spin it around. It happens to be right next to it, but we spin it around. We find the 106, and we read off the value, just like that. And we can. Okay, division is. Well, this is just a different multiplication problem to kind of show it. Here again, we're multiplying 5 times a different value. I wanted to show how you do a decimal. So this is 105. This is 106. This is 105 should be 105.1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's 105.1, and our result. And this is where it gets really kind of shady, and where they talk about the precision is this value is, so it's 525, this is 526, so it's 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8. So it's 25 point, it's right in the middle, 25.5, 525.5. And that's as much precision as we can get off of that. But you can imagine what if it was 52,000, right? 52,500. They would say that's 52,500 and 52,550, something like that. Yeah.
So just you go for the first B, find our first number,
Yeah.
second number 8, and then look at the results in the second B.
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah. And it's basically the same as, yeah. Did everybody get a chance to see the slide rules? And keep them passing around if you want, keep them circulating. It's the same. So finding that first where you've got the marker with the black on the B, that's basically the same as on these where you're moving that 1 or that 0 to that edge. It's the same sort of thing. It's like that's the first thing I move to the number I'm going to multiply by. Then I have to find the other thing and read it off the B. And a way to kind of keep it in mind, why is it also the B scale? Is because you're going that many times around. Okay, and these figures are from his documentation, these blow-ups. So what I'm trying to do is kind of translate his documentation into my actual device. Okay, whoops, didn't want to see that yet. I really apologize. This is all on RPI Wi-Fi. Sorry about that. This is a division. This works differently on the division. Instead of aligning with that black marker on the B scale, as we did with multiplication, we're aligning the black marker on an A scale and working in reverse. So we're lining it, our divisor is 3. Now notice we're actually choosing 300, but it's 3.00 in this case. And then we're looking for on our B scale for what we're dividing, and we look at our result. And it looks like it's on 940, but we know what it's actually 94 by keeping track of our decimal places. So you in this world of calculations, you just had to naturally keep track of your decimal places. You had to have an awareness of numbers. Okay, and this is actually a more complicated thing. How do we deal? Is there a way to automatically deal with like this square here? Here we're dividing, so we have to line up. We should be lining up with we have to work out that multiplication. We have to find 50.3, and then we're 50.3 on A, opposite 100.6. That's where our dividing. I'm not sure. Yes. So the C is the squared scale. So one of the things that conveniences of slide rules is you have these multiple scales where you can. I've been working on these adjacent scales like A and B or C and D, but you can pop between the scales. So when you did our alignment, so if we look here, we've got our 315 or 31.5. That's actually our squared scale. So they've got sort of a squared built in, and then we can read off our result. And here, this is precision thing. So the result is 496.12. How do we get that? This is 496, 497, okay? 496, this is 496.5. So this is 496.2. Halfway between that is 496.1. And Edwin Thacher says, you should be able to tell that that's not, it's not quite 0.15, it's actually 0.12. It's plotted. So this is kind of ooh on him. It's kind of a little bit of a bad example, but there's another example I'll show on precision where it's an excellent example. So this one is kind of sketchy, Edwin, but I mean, it's in a way it's kind of legit. You can kind of see how I could tell, that's more than 496.1. Okay, maybe it's 496.5, depending upon how I aligned it and whether somebody bumped it and my dog hit my leg or whatever. But you can get the feeling here of what's going on. So precision, he goes on at length, and on this page and the next page, this is the online version of the documentation. How does he claim in his patent disclosure, he's claiming 5 to 6 digit precision. How could that possibly be? Okay, even with the example I just gave, you can see how 4 digit. How does he claim that kind of precision? Well, let's look at this. So here's 114. Here's 115. Or it's 100, it's 11,040. I hope my profanities don't go out over the web. It could be 11,400, 11,500. Okay, now let's look at that. So this is, actually this is a typo here. This should be, I apologize, it should be 11,460, not 560. That's a typo. But let's look at that. So that's 460, 11,460. Another typo. Sorry. Let's move it. This is beyond that. It's 11,465. Okay, 11,465. Move it scoosh a little bit to the right. It's 11,467.5. Okay, so voila, that's 5 or 5.5 digit precision. I mean, and that's when it's on this kind of a scale, that's a little bit more legitimate than what we were just looking at, where we were trying to distinguish 0.12 and 0.15. But you can see his argument there. Okay, and so that this is legitimate. This is and this is actually the value. This is why we have all the way up to 1,000 or more on the scale. That's what they've done. That number of decades, hundreds of decades on this allows that sort of precision. Okay, and is that my last slide? I think that's my last slide. So what we can do then is, if we go to, what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to try to stop sharing this. And what you should see is I'm trying to make this be the big thing. I can't. What do I need to do? Maybe if I stop sharing this video. That doesn't help any. I want to make this big. Anybody got any ideas?
Right click the left on the left, like you. Oh yeah, that's all.
But if I do the different one, whoops. If I do what?
There might be a way where you can
ping this one.
Pardon?
Click on the 3 dots over there.
Yeah.
See if there's a ping this one and make
Where do I do that? I'm sorry.
I don't see the option.
What if you go back to layout again in the top right?
Yes.
And full screen again? But that might also a way to automatically hide people without.
Oh, we can see it. What I want to show here is I'm going to try. I'm going to actually try to do the multiplication here. So this is remember my A scale, and let's say I want to multiply three. Can you actually see? Is it actually in the view? Yeah. So can you see my finger?
Yes.
Can you see the numbers that I'm pointing at?
No.
So on the A scale, the inner scale, that's the black thing. That's my alignment. That's the same as like kind of the zero on the slide rule. Here's my B at 300. Okay, now let's say I want to multiply that by 3 times, I don't know, 110. Okay, can we see over here? Do I need to turn it? But you should see here, we've got $110 and we've got 330. We're reading off 330 on our B scale. Or we can multiply it by, what if we want to do 3 times 140?
We're a bit out of frame there.
Is it out of frame?
Yep.
We in?
Yep.
So 3 times 140 is 420. You see that? Or 3 times 585 is 1950. You see that? 585 is 1950. No, 3 times 195 is 500.
That bottom face is too steep to read at this angle.
Okay. So, and so the notice how I'm sliding this. When the person who found this at a estate sale, he called me up and he said, John, I want you to take a look at this. I have no idea what this is. And it was just like this. And I'm looking at it. And I'm like, what is this? And then I go I know exactly what this thing is. I know exactly what this thing is. And I grabbed it and went home and researched it, and that's it. So this is the other thing I wanted to, so we've got, what are we doing here? We've got plenty of time. I was wondering if you had any questions. I'm not going to endeavor a division. Divisions are confusing even on regular slide rules, but although ironically enough, there's probably they're needed more for that. One of the things you notice on the bigger slide rules, you probably notice that there are trigonometric functions.
This one is what's on the back.
Yeah, see that one. So this, notice it's kind of cheaply built. I think that, I don't know who that one was one that came from my wife's family. And I don't know who might have had that, because that one was my father-in-law's when he was an undergraduate at Harvard in the 50s, pre-med. This is probably the fanciest of. This was a friend of ours who's about 10 years older than me. He used this for real, and as an engineer before at his companies, the calculators became common. So you could tell just by the feel. This is this is an excellent slide. Well, actually, I think he had it early in career, because if I look at his case, this is Dennis's case, and he kept changing his address. But one of the funny things about this is got handy belt strap. So I can't imagine can you imagine walking around campus with I think I'm joking. This is exactly what was going on at RPI in the 50s or in the 60s. And the bigger ones you had, the more precision you had. Although, on that note, slide rules, the problems that you were solving were tended to be oriented towards the kind of calculations that you could do. So if you're in an exam or you're doing problem sets, they are, they're not asking for huge amounts of precision, and you're also going to be graded on whether the precision you gave in your answer was appropriate. I don't know if you've ever had that situation where, you calculated something and you used more precision, you gave in your answer more digits of precision than the input to the problem had. Yeah, significant digits. So you were only allowed to use, one of the things that this doesn't have that I found is curious, there's no pi. It doesn't have pi called out. And that was a surprise to me. You notice on the slide rules, there's a pi on every scale. I wanted to make a point about sines and cosines. That's one of the things that's really cool about how a person is really handy with the slide rule. You might do like some kind of multiplication, then you'd figure out the sign of something, and then you follow the cursor down and use that in, as the next thing. So you're just solving a problem with the slide rule. You're like, for this, that, and like that, going along, kind of, which I could barely do 50 years ago. Now can't even come close to do. I wanted to, I didn't give it a chance. I wanted to, just as a points of reference, this is an HP 15C. I have 3 of these. This is actually the one that I got right after I graduated from RPI in 1984. I've had it ever since. It still works. I just replaced the batteries.
Makes so much sense because I got 12C when I was undergrad, and that should not be that long ago.
Well, no, so here's the thing. C and the 15C use the same hardware, different programming, okay? But the 12C has been in continuous production. It's the financial version. It's incredible use by the financial community. It's never been unpopular. The 15C is very popular with engineers that are my age. And I got it right after I graduated here, but I used it throughout my early in my engineering career. I used it for when I did my master's and my doctorate, and so this thing rocks. And the only reason I have, I'll pass this around.
It looks exactly the same as 12C.
It does. The coloring is slightly different. The 12C, the aluminum is more of a gold.
Yeah, I have actually 2 of them. One is more gold and the other one's a little bit more silver.
Right, but I also have on my iPad somewhere around here, disappeared. I have a 15C emulator. And then, which is very cool. It is completely programmable. That's the HP is HP 15C is programmable, and the emulator that runs on the iPad is 100% programmable. I did some test programs during the holiday from my programming manual, and it completely works. But it's a fantastic calculator built like a tank. And this other one, so that was my youngest daughter's high school calculator. Probably about 15 years ago or so, a little bit more. TI graphing calculator, but it was kind of a standard because you said you had one as well.
I did too.
Yeah. So it's kind of a standard. So there's nothing special except for the fact that thing started up right away. I didn't have to replace the batteries in that. No, actually I did. I did have to replace the batteries, and I had to replace the batteries in this one, which meant I had to find the batteries for that one. So.
It lasts forever.
They do. It's right. I actually have a drawer full of. I've got 1 or 2 more of those TIs and several other scientific calculators that have just appeared. They just, yeah. Anyways, so any other questions about, it's kind of a history thing. One of the funny things about that one is you flip it over, it's got all the things that you want to have on a cheat sheet. Yeah, all those, it's like, what was that? Oh, okay. Yeah, in there too. I don't think that one's got a cheat sheet in it.
No.
Yeah. That one's kind of got it built in. One of the things, an interesting bit of history about programmable calculators is that for a period of time, right after they were introduced, when you would get tested for a ham radio license by the American, in the United States, it's in ARRL, American Radio Relay League, they would make you clear the memory of your calculator to erase any programs that you might have put in. It would help you do the exam, which is kind of, it's kind of funny.
What is the language? There's a name for the language that you use to when you're.
Well, okay, so the HP, the HP uses what's called reverse Polish notation, RPN, for actually entering equations. So you can do it right there, Nippon, if you clear that, okay, if you clear it, and to multiply, okay? Let's say you want to do like 3 times 10, right? You go 3, enter, 10 times. Yeah, he's familiar with it because it's used across it. It makes sense I've actually talked, I used to work with, when I was at HP Labs, an engineer who was a project manager on early HP programmable calculators. And he was explaining to me the whole RPN thing. It's easier, it's more hardware efficient the way they do it, because they're just kind of pushing things into the stack. So you're as opposed to what you're used to on a TI, which is this arithmetic approach. Like if you want to do 2 times 30, it's 2 times 30 equals, okay? But to the HP engineers, it made more sense to 2, push on the stack, 30, push on the stack. Now pop the stack with the times, there it is, okay? And it takes a little bit of getting used to, particularly if you cut your teeth using, as I did, a TI 51 or whatever it was in high school. I had to kind of learn that. So you want to definitely do a semester's worth of problem sets before you go into an exam with. But
The stop part is different for because this is the function for finance here.
well, they should all be different. Yeah, the hardware is the same, but the microprogramming is different.
Some parts are basically the same. Like this part is exactly the same for here, but this is the main difference. Is just
Yeah, where there are scientific functions, there are those are replaced by whatever financial functions you guys use. So anyways, that's it. And if there's no more questions, thank you very much. And if let's see, I'm gonna turn off the recording. Stop.